If you're a researcher, you know the feeling, right? You've just wrapped up a dozen interviews, you've got hundreds of survey responses, maybe even a mountain of social media comments. The data is so rich, it's powerful, but let's be honest, it is a complete, chaotic mess of unstructured text. So how in the world do you turn all of that into clear, actionable insights? Well, that's the exact challenge we're going to tackle today. So here's our game plan. We'll start by really digging into the problem itself, what we're calling the qualitative data dilemma. Then we'll introduce a powerful tool called NVivo. After that, we're going to walk through the 3 core steps: taming your data, the art of coding it, and finally, the best part, uncovering those amazing insights. And we'll wrap up by looking at what this all means for the future of analysis. All right, first up, session 1, the qualitative data dilemma. This really gets to the heart of the challenge that researchers are facing every single day. Does this feel a little too familiar? You know, you're just staring at pages and pages and pages of transcripts, and the sheer volume of it all is just overwhelming. You know the answers are buried in there somewhere, but finding them feels like trying to find a needle in a haystack the size of a mountain. Well, the good news is you are definitely not alone. This is just the reality of modern qualitative research. We are dealing with massive amounts of what's called unstructured data. We're talking interviews, open-ended survey questions, social media posts, even video files. And just making sense of it all is a huge, huge hurdle. And trying to sort through all this manually? Yeah, that's what we call the manual analysis trap. It is unbelievably time-consuming. It's so prone to human error and our own biases. And maybe worst of all, it makes spotting those really complex patterns and connections, well, nearly impossible. You end up risking overlooking the most important insights that are buried deep in your data. But what if there was a better way? And that brings us right into section 2. We're going to look at a tool that was designed specifically for this exact challenge, your research toolkit, NVivo. So what is NVivo really? Well, to put it simply, it's this incredibly powerful software made for qualitative and mixed methods research. Its whole reason for being is to help you take all that chaotic data, organize it, explore it in a systematic way, and actually find those meaningful insights. So why are so many researchers getting on board? Well, because NVivo basically acts as your central research hub. You can pull in data from pretty much any source you can think of. It helps you find patterns and themes way more efficiently. And then, and this is the really fun part, you can visualize your results with things like charts and models. It even helps you collaborate with your team and connects with tools you're probably already using, like SurveyMonkey or Office. Okay, so that's the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. It's time to get practical with step 1, taming your data. This is all about bringing some much-needed order to that initial chaos. You know, getting started is surprisingly simple. First, you just create a new project, easy enough. Second, you import all your files, your Word docs, your PDFs, your audio, you name it. But step 3 is where the magic really starts to happen. This is where you create cases by linking demographic info like a participant's age or location directly to their interview file. And trust me, this is what sets you up for some seriously powerful analysis down the road. And that brings us right to the absolute heart of this whole process. Step 2, the art of coding. This is how you literally transform raw, messy text into structured, analyzable data. Okay, so imagine you're reading through a transcript and you come across this sentence. A student is talking about the societal emphasis on seeing top grades for future success. Right away, you know this is a really significant piece of information. So in NVivo, you'd capture that idea with something called a code. In this case, we might call it academic pressure. The best way to think of a code, or a node as it's sometimes called, is like a virtual container. It's a bucket. You're basically creating a bucket for every key theme you find, and you're going to drop all the related quotes and passages right into it. And doing it is incredibly intuitive. On a Windows machine, you can literally just highlight the text and drag and drop it onto the code you made. On a Mac, it's just a simple right-click. You're physically sorting your data into these thematic buckets without ever having to leave your document. It's a game changer. The software is also super flexible with how you think. You can take an inductive approach, which means you just let the themes bubble up organically from the data, creating new codes as you spot them. Or you could take a deductive approach, where you start with a pre-existing theory, create your code buckets first, and then go hunting for examples in your data that fit into them. All right, now for the payoff. All that organizing and coding leads us right here to step 3, uncovering key insights. This is where your data actually starts talking back to you.
So because we linked our codes, like our academic pressure bucket, to our cases with all that demographic data, we can now ask some incredibly specific questions. Like, for instance, who is most concerned about academic pressure? Let's find out.
With just a few clicks, NVivo can run what's called a matrix coding query and spit out a chart that looks just like this. What we're doing here is comparing how many times participants of different ages brought up our academic pressure theme.
And boom, there's our insight. Instantly, right there in front of us, we can see that in this data set, participants who are 23 years old talked about academic pressure twice as often as those who are 22. Now, that's not a guess, it's not a hunch, it's a solid, data-backed finding that would have been almost impossible to spot just by reading through everything. And that is just scratching the surface. NVivo has a whole suite of tools to help you explore your findings. You can create word clouds to see which terms pop up the most, hierarchy charts to see how your themes connect and are structured, and explore diagrams to really visualize all the connections in your project. This all leads us to our final section, the future of analysis. So let's zoom out. What does all of this really mean for the work that we as researchers do every day? Well, at the end of the day, tools like NVivo represent a really fundamental shift in how we work. They handle the tedious, time-sucking mechanical work of organizing and sorting. And what that does is it frees us up. It empowers researchers to do what we do best, to focus on the high-level thinking, the interpretation, the innovation, and that feeling of genuine discovery. And that really just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. When this amazing software can so quickly and accurately handle the what in our data, what themes are there, what groups said what, how much deeper can we go? How much more brain power do we have left to explore the far more important question, the why?